All right. Good morning, everybody. Happy Tuesday. We're going to give everybody a moment to join. Big group today. Hope everybody has their cup of coffee or tea, in my case today. Welcome. As you guys are joining, now that you're settled and your audio is probably on, go ahead and introduce yourself in the chat, please. We'd love to know who you are, what nonprofit you're from, and maybe what region. So what area are you serving? Awesome. We got folks from all over. I hope it makes you guys happy too. I just love seeing everybody introducing themselves and just the opportunity for us to all gather together to talk about some exciting stuff. So let's wait one more minute just so everybody hops in and then we'll get started. Okay. So for time's sake, I'm going to go ahead and move us along. Please feel free to keep on introducing yourself in the chat. Check out who else is here. I'm sure we all know someone else that's here, which is the cool part. And let's go ahead and get started. Jen, if you could advance the slide. All right. So for today, we're doing Finish Strong. We're talking about thank yous, donor thank yous, and I'm so excited to introduce you to our two special guests. A couple of webinar housekeeping items that we go over every time just to make sure you're clear on what's happening after the webinar. So this webinar is being recorded, and after the webinar, give us like 48 hours and we'll send you both the slide deck and the recording as well as the takeaways. Because this is a big group, please stay on mute and we'll be using the chat to answer your questions. And of course, if we have time at the end of this webinar, we can have you come off mute to discuss in more detail. And then of course, for Colorado Gives, all things coloradogives.org, please email support@coloradogives.org. That's the speediest way to get to our support team so they can connect you with the right answers or right resources. And then the other side here is just our disclaimer that if we were to show any data from a specific nonprofit page on Colorado Gives, that it's fake data. It's dummy data. We are not showing real donor data or information when we're doing these demos. All right. So today we're going to be talking quickly about donor retention and why it matters. So why are we all here today talking about thank yous? And then we'll jump in with Lisa and Jen into philanthropic psychology. We'll talk about the 6 building blocks and 5 levels of donor thank yous. So digging into how you might construct a great thank you. And then we're going to talk about love. So what does love look like in your communications? So going beyond the basics of constructing that thank you. And then we'll have some time to chat about next steps. So how you can take this information and act on it. And of course, some Q&A. All right, more people joining by the moment. Welcome all new folks. Go ahead and introduce yourself in the chat. And I'm going to hand it over for a sec because I'd love for both Lisa and Jen to introduce themselves before we hop into the content today, because I'm so excited that they're here with us. Jen, would you like to kick it off and say hello?
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Hello. I have seen many of you. Thank you very much for coming back. And it's very nice to be with you again. And also thank you for the 4 special ladies who have went to my office hour. I'm a philanthropic psychology. I study how people love. You'll hear more about it in the next 60 minutes, but it's very nice to be here with your very friendly and warm and loving community. Thank you for having me again.
Hi, everybody. It's my first time with Colorado Gives Foundation, so thank you very much for the invitation. It's a huge honor to be here with you and with Jen. I'm a fundraising copywriter, Lisa Sargent. I'm also the author of a book called Thankology, which is just the right topic for us to talk about today. And I'm really excited to be here and get started.
Wonderful. And with that, I'll jump in here before we hear from the experts, because I just really wanted to level with us about why we're all here today and why we're talking about thank yous. And it's really because we all need to focus on donor retention because it matters. All right, so we know, or if you've been watching the numbers, we know retention is decreasing. So nationally in Q1 of 2024, nonprofits only retained 7.2% of new donors, and that's a drop from years past. The Fundraising Effectiveness Project reported that donor retention dropped 3.5% in 2023 compared to 2022. And we are seeing similar consistencies in this year and 2024. So donor churn is a real thing, and it's the percentage of donors who don't donate again. And that's over 70% of people that you recruit, that you get in as new donors. They're leaving, they're not coming back. And that's where potentially a thank you can come in to warm up that relationship and get them to come back and give again. We know that new donor acquisition is costly. And so right now, without thinking about new donors, you know that you have data and your contact information to retain and engage your current fundraising list. You also have connections in the community that can, and with your donors that can build and deepen the relationships. So you can pull all that together now without even having to think about donor acquisition. And that's because the cost of acquiring a new donor can be 50 to 100% more expensive than a donor giving again or several years in a row. And if you have higher retention as a nonprofit, we know you're going to raise more. So we want you to be focusing on building long-term relationships with donors, and that's going to lead to larger donations down the line. One interesting thing to keep in mind as far as time frame when we're talking about thanking donors, could you go back one slide? Thank you. Is that the biggest drop-off in donor engagement occurs after the initial donation. So the 90-day period after that initial donation is the prime time to engage with and give that donor the warm, fuzzy feelings. Also, it's good to know that most major givers, most major gifts are made within 5 years of the first gift that a donor makes. So that cultivation timeline starts ticking the minute you get that donation. And we also know that more recent gifts lead to more giving in the next year. And so here's some stats from Colorado Gives. We see that almost 68% of returning donors in 2024 on the platform are retained donors. And what that means is that the majority of the people that are coming back from 2023 to 2024, they most recently gave in the year prior. And so that is powerful information that you guys can leverage. Target most heavily the people that gave to you in the most recent year past. In 2024, the average Colorado Gives Day gift from a new donor was $268. Awesome. But from a returning donor, someone who came back from prior years, it was almost $900, $877. Huge difference in the proportion of giving between new acquisition and retaining those donors, bringing them back for the next campaign. All right. Now I'll just mention 2 resources on Colorado Gives that's going to help us with our discussion today. And of course, you know that Colorado Gives is a free year-round online fundraising platform. And with it, you have access to a bunch of built-in reports, one of which being retention. So if you want to quickly find out who's coming back for different campaigns that you're running on coloradogives.org, that's the place to do it, in your organization page reports. Next, I also want to mention that when we're talking about thank yous, sometimes people assume that the thank you is the same as the receipt. It's not. The receipt is that unsexy receipt that shows all the tax deductible information, maybe can be customized a bit on Colorado Gives, but it's not the warm, fuzzy, personalized message that you're sending as a thank you. The good news is Colorado Gives automatically emails tax-deductible receipts to everybody who donates. That frees up your time so you can be focused on the post-donation messaging, on those thank yous. Also on Colorado Gives, your donors can access receipts for each donation as well as end-of-year tax summaries. So it's an easy self-serve platform for your donors to have access to as well. All right, so that's my lightning round on why we are all here today. We are focusing on donor retention, and we want to help you lift up and bring back those folks that love you and supported you in the past. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Jen and Lisa to dig into what a thank you looks like for us.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Jordan. Thank you for that lovely opening and introduction. Thank you also for having Lisa and me here, because Lisa and we operate in the space of love, as Jordan said. I am probably the one scientist on the planet who is crazy about growing love, and Lisa is the one copywriting fundraiser on the planet who's crazy about growing love. We're just doing it in our own ways. So for us, philanthropic psychology is the science that we build our practice on. And it's really as straightforward as philanthropy is the love for humankind. Psychology is the study of the human psyche. And you literally put the two words together, is the study of how people love. So everything that we do to grow giving and grow retention is love-based. There will be a lot of other ways that you can grow giving that has absolutely nothing with love, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with those. It's just Lisa and I don't know much about them. So please do take your opportunity today, ask any questions you have about how to grow love while growing giving, because that's what we both feel crazily passionate about. And I also realized that for many of you, philanthropic psychology is not your first line of defense when it comes to writing fundraising copy. So a lot of the content that we part with you might be new to you. Worries not. All the reports, the research that we have published, they're all freely available on our website. You can go to the Institute for Sustainable Philanthropy report site and download anything that we talk about. And in particular, learning to say thank you is the content that I personally will cover. And also later on, you will see our love report. But even more than that, for anybody who is in this webinar or who is going to watch this webinar, you are also more than happy to register for a Q&A session on the 24th of June at 10 a.m. Mountain Daylight Time. You can either click on this link or you can use the QR code. Please do take the opportunity to come and visit with me and visit with your colleagues who have learned from our presentation today and who will put them into practice. So just to give you two little examples, about a month ago, I gave a presentation on how we can use gamification in our fundraising communications. And during that presentation, one of your colleagues volunteered one of their brilliant examples. And this is from the Re-Entry Initiative. Absolutely brilliant that they turned the re-entering journey after someone come out of jail and try to re-enter society into a snake and ladder game that people can play. Absolutely gorgeously beautiful. In the office hour, we have some ladies, maybe yourself included, come to share your own beautiful gamification examples. And as we all know, when we start to play around with new ideas, we try out things that might feel quite exciting, but we haven't quite sharpened our skills yet. So for example, if you were going to play with gamification ideas, usually what happens is you start with the ideas where the games are too complicated and your case for support doesn't quite come out. So during the office hours, what we can do is you can share your ideas and we can sharpen the ideas based on what you come up with. And also something else fun you can do in your office hour is you share the examples you would have implemented within 2 weeks of taking the webinar. And so this is an example shared by Bikes Parade, where they want to help people understand the importance of don't text and drive at the same time. What is the game they come up with? Help us vote. Is that utterly adorable or is that puppy power? How adorable is that? And they got the most social media engagement with this post than what they have gotten in the past. But really, most importantly, is we're having a lot of fun doing it. So yes, come to the office hours in 2 weeks' time. Have a think about what you might do with the information we share here, and come and share your example. And I have to say, last but not least, is that you will meet people who genuinely love you and love your mission. I mean, the love that is shared in those office hours where we're supporting each other to find our grounding and confidence and joy in fundraising just touches my heart. So yes, do sign up and share with your colleagues, dive into the learning and practice. With that, I will turn to Lisa to talk about how to properly thank your donors and how to bring the person into the thank you and how to bring love into the thank you. Here you go, Lisa. The floor is yours.
Well, and on that note, I will say thank you. The first thing I want to do before we get into the 6 building blocks is super quick, talk to you a little bit about the neuroscience of gratitude, because I think a lot of people, like Jordan had mentioned, made the distinction between the receipt and the thank you. A thank you is, now a thank you can also be a receipt. You can also have that information in there if you need to do, like, say you were doing a direct mail thing and you need to do like a one-stop letter. But in this case with Colorado Gives Foundation, giving you the whole automated thing, that's wonderful. What I want you to understand is what's happening when you really engage the neuroscience of gratitude. It's really something that happens in your brain, in your supporter's brain, when you give and receive gratitude. And there's a couple of regions, they sit right behind your eyebrows. And when gratitude is activated, what happens is it touches on things like your emotion and your memory centers. So in other words, your supporters remember you better. Talk about retention. It touches on priming future support. It can heighten people's sense of self-worth. And it can also move people to act for the greater good. It's called pro-social behavior, which is really wonderful. And that's what we want. Can also trigger obviously the happiness chemicals, oxytocin, dopamine, and serotonin, and can encourage trust and boost motivation in donors. So like everything you want, all in this one glorious mix when you engage gratitude. You'll find that in my book, but you don't need that to get there. So we covered a little bit about philanthropic psychology, the neuroscience, why donor retention matters. Now we're going to look at the 6 building blocks and 5 levels of donor thank yous. And you can go ahead and advance that. And 6 building blocks. Before we get started, what I want to show you is super quick slide on what can happen after someone gives online. So if you look in the upper left corner, you'll see your donation has been processed. Now, when I was writing Thankology, what I found was that there were a lot of organizations out there that still do this. You make a gift, the next screen that pops up says something like your donation has been processed. For Jen and I, what we're wondering is, where is the love in that? It's not there. So in the example below with the Irish organization Trocaro, what you can see, and you can do this in Colorado as well, you can see the first homepage, which is after the Myanmar earthquake, Give to Rush Relief. And after they give, the very next page that pops up, instead of your donation has been processed, is your love is a lifeline. thank you for helping in Myanmar. And it's this gorgeous full page receipt, not really receipt, but confirmation gratitude letter that tells people what their gift will do. And then that's followed up by an email, safe, remembered, loved. We'll dig into that in just a second. But this is what the process really will look like if you think about a gratitude journey. So you can advance the slide to the next one, and we'll look at the 6 blocks. And the 6 blocks really for me are ways that you can sort of answer the questions that happen in a donor's mind after they make a gift. And these are ways based on some of the work from Penelope Burke, from Jen and Adrienne Sargent, that help you address all the sort of elements that need to go into a thank you letter. And they basically form 6 blocks. They don't have to go in order. And they form conveniently the word thank you. So you're going to thank the donor and let them know their gift was received. You're going to help them see what their gift is doing or will do, in this case, if it comes immediately after they give. You're going to ask them for something other than money. And this, if you can do this, you might ask them to go to a tour, sign a petition online, even go to visit at your site online. And you want to notify them how they can reach you with questions. And you want that to be to a human being. Email jane@xyz.org or a phone number where people will actually answer. K, you want to kindle good feelings by showing them how the donor's gift is helping, and we'll get into that a little bit more with talking about love. And then update, you want to update them on when they'll next hear from you, even if that's, I'll update you as soon as possible. And we're going to look at this in a real life letter. So this again is the example that I just showed you, an automated email that came out after someone made a gift to the Myanmar after the Myanmar earthquakes. Safe, remembered, loved. You can see right from the start, it's not on behalf of your organization. It's right from the start. You want to kindle good feelings. That's K. And then down at the bottom, you can see more the abundance of their determination, the depth of their concern. You're triggering shared values. So you're kindling something higher than just thanking. H, you can see emergency food, hygiene kits, medical supplies. You're helping them see what their gift will do. T, thank, and you can see how these don't have to go in order. T, thank you for giving of your time and your resources to help rush relief. U, you're going to update them. Down at the bottom, you can see we don't know when we're going to be able to update you, but we'll do it as soon as we can. You can see N, where we notify people how they can get in touch with. And this is just a quick tip that you can say, email our donor care manager, for example, in the PS. You can see that. You can make it a hyperlink. But the best thing that you can do is spell out the full email address, because that way, if they want to just copy it and paste it into their own email server versus clicking that hyperlink, they can. And then ask, obviously, you're going to ask them to subscribe. In this case, we ask them to sign up for the newsletter. So those are the 6 blocks in action. And if you want to advance the slide, we will, I believe I'm going to turn this over to Jen. And Jen, you can show how the 5 levels fit into the 6 blocks, which sounds complicated, but is not.
Absolutely. So just to stay on the PS a little bit more, in the bottom, what I absolutely loved about this email is the fact that people are invited to write to a real person, and the email is to a real person. So immediately, you are not just connecting with a faceless, contactless organization, but you're invited to contact someone with a first name, with a last name, and with both first name and last name at this organization. So you know you are already building person-to-person connection. And that is going beyond level 1 thank you, which serves as a receipt of a gift. Does this email tell you that the gift is received? Absolutely. It is thanking you for the generous donation of this amount, but it's not just thanking you for that. It's going to level 2 to create a good feeling that says the warmth of your generous donation. It's the feeling of warmth that is being thanked here. And it's not just saying your generous donation is received. let's read this sentence carefully. The warmth of your generous donation of this amount is right now joining with that of other supporters as kind and caring as you. So not only you are thanking them for that donation, you are helping them connect the warmth with a group of people who are kind and caring like them. When we talk about this warmth and this kind and caring, we're reinforcing what we call the person connection. It takes the thank you from a receipt of the gift, a good feeling, to conveying appreciation for the donors as people. And this is not just done just around the donation itself. Starting from the very beginning, you are talking about their compassion. You are talking about them not just giving money, but their time and resources. You are thanking them not just giving money, but also hope. And you are talking about how today at this organization, the donor is filling our hearts with gratitude for the gift that you have given. But that's not just the gift, also the gift that you are. You are giving yourself through your gift to us. And it's telling them, I'm so glad that not just your gift is here, you are here together besides us for a just and caring world. And that just and caring world is that bigger picture. And in that just and caring world, they've got a role. They are the light to us here, and they are providing the safety, the love, and the fact that people who are suffering, they are remembered. So it's telling the thank you story like an impact story from the first line using very few words, in this case, 3, and go all the way right back down here to say, thank you again for helping. But it's not just the nitty-gritties, but that bigger and broader story of being the light, being the safety, being the love. And when people are connected in this way, you can wait for that increased giving and that increased quality of your donors' connection with your organization to become measurable. So Lisa, do you want to say a couple of words about the impact this style of communication made on Chokoro's retention figures?
So, well, the best way that I can put this is Chokora is, what happened was their retention increased, and then also over a 5-year period, their revenue increased by 500%. So when donors stick around and donors give more, when they feel loved, they also send thank you letters back in return, which is quite lovely. And so what we saw was just an overall uptick in everything. And it happened over about 5 years.
Absolutely. So in our research that we've run with organizations like Oxfam, it doesn't take a lot of this kind of thank yous to give out. We only did one additional thank you once a month for 6 months with Oxfam. And you measure during those 6 months plus the 2 months after the thank yous are sent, how much people give when they receive this letter versus not receive this thank you. It's 16% difference over a 8-month period by only adding one thank you email per month. So it's not a unlimited amount of thing that we're asking you to do and wait for the money in the ether for God knows how long, right? This is, you do it every month. By the end of the 6 months, you expect to see difference. Especially if you do it in the way that grow love with an essence that is practicable and repeatable. So you can have the 6 boxes that Lisa talked about. You can have the 5 different levels to check yourself against. Am I at least sending a receipt on time, immediately on the spot? Is this receipt generating some good feelings? Are we talking to the person? What mechanisms have I set up to increase my giving and measure the quality of my donor's relationship? All of these things are actionable over time if you begin to think about them from today. But really, if you put the 6 blocks and the 5 levels together, when you actually sit down and want it to generate a thank you letter, these are the 5 questions you want to ask yourself. Lisa is the one who have used these 5 questions hundreds of times with many, many organizations. So I'll let her talk you through the 5 questions. But when you sit down to write your thank you letters, I would encourage you to properly put an answer, any answer to start with before you write.
Yep, I agree with you, Jen. 100%. So what I always tell people is, you almost want to read this from right to left. You need to know the first 2 things, but you also, before you put pen to paper or fingers to keyboard or whatever you do, you need to know first what's generating the thank you letter. Is it a Christmas appeal, a holiday appeal? Is it Colorado Gives Day? Whatever it is, you need to know what is the thing that you're going to be thanking someone for. Summer newsletter. So, and then who is the person you're thanking? Are you thanking a first-time giver? Are you thanking a monthly supporter? Are you thanking someone who gave an in memoriam gift, which is a completely different ballgame altogether? And then once you know those 2 things, then you say to yourself, okay, if I know that, how can I fit those 6 blocks in? You know what you're thanking someone for. You know what you need to help them see that they are making possible or will make possible. You can look at Jen's checklist here to say, like, and where is my receipt of the gift? And they just sort of work all together seamlessly. You'll just be automatically asking yourself these questions when you write. But then once you do that, you say to yourself, okay, what's the greater, higher, and deeper story that goes beyond the gift that you want them to connect them to? So thank the giver, not just the gift. And that helps to trigger all those beautiful gratitude chemicals and all those wonderful results that Jen just talked about. And when you do that, then is how can you elevate the person into that gratitude space, into the thank you for the light that you are. Thank you for the gift that you are. Those are the questions that I ask when every single time I sit down to write a thank you letter or email, and you can do that as well. And I'll turn that back over to you now, Jen.
Absolutely. So what the example that we just shared with you from Chopro, every little detail is thought through. So I would strongly recommend in the next 2 weeks, if you were to work on your own communication, you print that slide out that Lisa shared with you. You have that example right next to you, and you print your own thank you out, and you compare them to say, can I make my copy sound more like this? And you just mechanically do that to start with. And then you cross-check your questions. So for example, this is a absolutely beautiful copy created by Habitat for Humanity of Colorado. And as you can see already from this copy, this is a level 5 thank you. You fundraisers in your own community, you are already generating level 5 thank yous. Why is this a level 5 thank you? Because you're thanking them for the gift. They know that you have acknowledged that you have received a gift. but you are not just stopping at the gift. You are expressing deep gratitude for that gift. And you are not stopping at thanking for their gift. You are thanking them for their kindness and for their compassion as the person behind the gift. And you are bringing them into that bigger and greater and deeper story of transforming lives and creating stability, equity, self-reliance. And you are not just doing this once or twice, like you saw from Lisa's example. You are doing first line, second line, third line, fourth line. You are doing it over and over and over and over again throughout this copy. And I would say that there is a tendency for us to want to put the first 3 sentences into a paragraph. Don't do that. When you give people thanks, give them white space to breathe between each bit of goodness that you are offering them. So resist the temptation to put your thank you emails into big chunks. Break them down into thank you, thank you, thank you, and thank you. Let every independent thank you idea, every bit of goodness you deliver into their lives to be that stand-alone piece of goodness that they can't skip and skim and miss. Because if they miss it, they miss a goodness that you are gifting them. And look at this. May your home be filled with health, happiness, and warmth this holiday season. Who want to miss that? Right? Let's make sure it's a separate paragraph with a highlighted your home in it, because that's our gift to them. That's our goodness for them, right? So for anybody who have given you last December, now it's June, 6 months later, send them a surprise thank you for no other reason but to give them some delight in this hot month of June. Don't mention collateral in the future, don't mention collateral give in the past, just thank them for being who they are, being that warm present, being that stable support, for being them and be with you in this journey. Just add it. If that's the only thing you can add, just add that one thank you email. That's 1 out of the 6 you need to generate a 16% income increase in about 6 months' time. All right, let's just focus on that one thing. And ideally, even send that out before you come to the office hour. 2 weeks, let me get this done. And I'm going to go to this office hour and share all the nice thank you emails. My donor write back to me and thank me for how good my thank you is to them. Let's make that goal for the next 2 weeks before we come to the office hour. So yes, if you have any questions now about what you would like to do in the next 2 weeks, or ask any questions, please do type them into the chat box before Lisa and I move on to love. But here's your chance. Type any questions you have.
So we do have a couple questions from earlier in the chat as you were going through the content.
Yeah. Go for it.
Okay, let's see. So Patricia brings up a really good question. She said, what do you think about hard copy thank yous on letterhead as opposed to the email copy, just email copy or just sending out an email? How do you guys handle where and when you do and focus energy on hard copy sends versus just the digital thank you?
Lisa, you go. I know you've got things to share.
I do have things to share. So for me, it's all about permissions. So you have to first make sure you have permission to mail. You have permission to email, whatever channel you reach them on, make sure you have that. That's first. Second is we always send both if we have permission to send both, and we often will reflect that in the email. So if you're okay with us sending you mail, you can even say that. Usually I don't say that because I know the clients that I work with, they have permission already and they won't do that otherwise, but we'll say in the next couple of weeks, you'll receive a thank you directly from our CEO. But I just wanted to be sure right now today to tell you how much your gift means to us. And it actually sets up a really cool process whereby your email thank you can come from someone else. For me, email thank yous will often come from someone who maybe is a donor care manager or something. And it's a great way to write in a different voice and say, hey, we really appreciate you. And this is what we're seeing on the ground right now, or this is what's happening in our towns right now. And oh, by the way, P.S., your thank you letter is going to come from the top. A lovely note we'll send you in a couple of weeks. So we always send both. There is also evidence that crossing channels, if you can, with donors and they've given you permission, it greatly elevates giving, it greatly elevates retention, all the good things that you want happen when you can cross channels. So I would say always send both. If you can, send both.
That's such a good point. And oftentimes we forget about the permission part because it's a hard part to get started, but so important. And yeah, we get a lot of customer support on the Colorado Gives end from donors who are frustrated because they can't opt out or they didn't say that they wanted mail. So that's a really good point when you're thinking about investing in hard copy versus just the digital. The next one from Shay, if I'm saying that right, is how do we adjust the copy for, say, a corporate sponsor? And I think we talk a little bit about some examples, but I think corporate sponsors are kind of a little bit their own breed. Is there any special technique that you use for them versus other donors?
Jen, do you want to do it?
Yeah, go ahead. Why don't you go?
I would just start by saying, for me, it's again, like, remember what's generating the letter, who are you writing to? So for me, though, what we've found is that corporate supporters respond really, really well to warm, generous copy, just like everyone else, because behind those corporate sponsors, there's a human being reading the letter. And they love that because so often people are trying to temper their tone and write in like people will say, oh, we need this letter. It's the same thing with fundraising appeals. We need this to sound intellectual or a certain way but what happens is the best response that you get reads at a lower level, around grades 4 to 8, reads at a warmer level, and just sounds like what I always say is warm, prompt, authentic, and human across every segment. It works great. And the only time I would change that a tiny, tiny bit is sometimes for in memoriam letters, because it's a very touchy subject and you just have to kind of not hold back too much, but you just want to be cognizant of that. Jen, do you have any other thoughts you add? I'm sure you have great ones.
Well, I think the genuineness that you mentioned is absolute key, right? So I think to learn about the love way of caring for your donors is as much about finding your own authentic love language as to learn the knowledge that we're parting with you today. It's just absolutely not going to work for you if you feel like you're speaking someone else's language. So you have to gradually, over time, discover your own authentic gratitude language. And don't be too hard on yourself and give it time. And even start to observe how you thank people around you in your own personal life, in your family, in your friends, with your children. See how you say thank you and try to translate what you already feel to be authentic to you into your partners. And when you first do those translations, I can guarantee you that it's not going to feel comfortable. But the solution is not to stop, but to push forward until when you find something that is comfortable to you, that you can stand on, and you do it because you love them, not because you think it's somehow going to generate good responses to you. It's like, this is my love for you, right here, lay plain in my letter. That's when you know you're ready to send a letter out. All topics we can go deeper on in the Q&A session.
Yes, definitely. Well, and at some point when we were working together, Jen, because we've been partners for 3 years now, I remember you saying, if you're having trouble getting started with these exercises or updating your copy to include love, talk to your staff, talk to your board members, talk to people who also love the organization. And then you'll start to translate and understand what might be important to your staff members is likely going to be a same or similar feeling that comes from your donors. I'm going to do one more and then we'll move on to some more content. This is a good one. So Sarah said, is it recommended to tier thank you letters or emails based on the giving level? So, 25 or under, 100 and over, is the copy important to change based on what they're giving or how they're giving? Or do you think it should be consistent?
Oh, Lisa, you go. I know it's one of those topics you feel passionate about.
You see my head. It's just, yeah, okay. So what I would say is this, a couple of things. One thing to remember is that legacy gifts often come from people who give just on a purely financial basis, who give smaller gifts for a long time. Now, some of the things that I would recognize if you were thinking of tiering, you might acknowledge copy differently for someone who gives monthly. So, and then maybe they made a special gift. We always do a separate language in there. But the general tone overall is always the same because all gifts are generous to the person who gave them. So if it's a major donor, what I would say is maybe someone has a relationship with someone in your organization. They may have a relationship with someone who might then make a phone call, who might then send a little note out. But in general, in terms of tiering, all gifts matter, just like all donors matter, because you just don't know, first of all, just because that sentence, that statement on its own stands if you're coming from the love and generosity place. But it also makes sense because you just don't know where that relationship is going to go if you nurture it and care for it properly.
Yeah, absolutely. Great. So now that we've finished the first course, are we ready for the second course before dessert? All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about the love that can take us even beyond all the 5 levels. And remember, this is not just basics. Like if you are already thanking your people as people, not just for their gift, this is where you go next. It might be that you have to spend the next 2 weeks just working on thanking the person. Then in this case, don't worry about the love for now. But if you are really hungry, really thirsty in finding the most advanced way to thank you donors, then thank you donors based on different types of love is where you can go next. Like all our previous reports, these 2 reports are also on our website. You can go download the report right here in the report link. But in these reports, we outline 5 different types of love. A month ago, I talked to you about playful love. Today, we're going to give you examples in playful love, passionate love, self-kindness love, familial love, as well as pragmatic love, all in thank you examples. All right, so this is not to ask the 5 questions. This is simply adding a third framework that you can use to say, what kind of love can I use to help people elevate into the gratitude space? So the first letter that we're going to start with is going to be a demonstration of playful love. Lisa, do you want to start with the letter?
Sure. What you can see on the middle sample, A Very Special Summertime Story, that was the email. There was also a direct mail version of this that went out. That was the email that resulted in the post-gift thank you email. And you will notice there that it says, Dear Friend to Child Vision. These folks, because of some mess with their database, they couldn't actually personalize emails, where they still got great results, but you will always personalize an email if you can. I just want to point that out. So this is about cortical visual impairment in an organization that helps children with sight loss. And so then you go to Playful Love, and you can see from the appeal, I wanted you to see it, because you can see that it's a children's charity. It's the tone is already out of the gate It's a little bit more playful. The little guy, the child Joey and his little guide dog Boo, those are their names. And so this is why we went with the playful love in this case, because that's their tone all the time. And so you can see right from the start with the subject line, you wonderful you, we're already talking about the giver, not just the gift. And again, starting off with some really leading emotions, generosity, kindness, compassion, love. And you can see the things that you're thanking them for, which is so much more lighthearted in this case. The music of laughter, the little hands that can reach and grow and do. And we always say, you know, thank you for being you, wonderful, caring you. You can see the victories, big and small, because you're already talking about children, right? So you've kind of got that big and small gift, big and small donors, big and small children. Like it comes into play. And it's how you sort of paint their giving story, their thank you story. You can just immerse yourself in that and think about how you might be if you were using those kind of words, the tone that you want to strike. In this case, for me, it was about the organization that prompted the tone. And that might be true for you as well. Jen, do you have other things you want to add for that?
Yeah, I mean, if you're interested in Playful Love and you're interested in how to implement it, you can always go back to the webinar that we did that Jordan already put on Colorado Gives website under resources, where you can get a wider range of examples of how to apply Playful Love in your fundraising communications. But in this case, it's the same definition, short-lived, light-hearted fun. So you don't have to think too much about copies like this. And this is not to say, oh, we can't, make our relationship with our donors too light. Well, this is going to be one of your series of communications that you're going to send out to them. It is okay for some messages to simply be that light-hearted, joyful place for people to have a break, have a breather once in a while. They come out of the deep, the flood, the suffering, the tragedy. Like, we have plenty of those on our hands. This is an opportunity for them to come out, have a little bit of joy and laughter. Yeah. The next example is about passionate love. For me, the difference between passionate love and lighthearted love is the love is deeper. It can be can have the potentials that leading into a long-term sustaining relationship. Lisa, do you want to talk through this example?
Sure. For me, what was the, I guess, sort of the impetus for me looking at passionate love is because when we think about those 5 donors that we ask, who are we writing to? On the whole, in this case, we're writing to people who believe in the arts. And the arts is a whole other ball game because it's different from playful love. I mean, you could use playful love sometimes, but in this case, we want to really harness that love, that thrill of what you feel when you're there immersed in the arts. And so the best way for me to do that, to begin that thank you letter, and this is something I really I hope you're able to think about. When you start at the very beginning of a letter, always think about that as like your most powerful place. There are a few places in thank yous and all letters that are super powerful. The lead is powerful. The postscript is powerful. The valediction, the sign off is powerful. So that's why we always focus really strongly on the roar of a concert, the shush of skis, it's fail. And then the tap, tap, tap of fingers on tablets. And then you can also see with passionate love, using those sort of sensory devices can help you put people right back in the moment, which is so powerful because it makes them think about what they're giving to. And then obviously other things like you are the lifeblood. Lifeblood is a passionate word, and you can use those if you're trying to use passionate love. Jen, do you have other thoughts on that?
No, that's the passionate love. And then it's self-kindness love. So this is the love where we experience when we are sharing long-term witnessing of a problem, that we almost in a way want to be kind to ourselves. But when we talk about ourselves, they are one of our people in our own community. if we are asking them to journey with our road to achieve our mission, then inevitably they would be exposed to the suffering that is shared in our community. So how can we think of ways to help our donors experience the care, not just what we give to the people that our donors help, but how can we help our donors to feel that we genuinely have a love and have a kindness towards them? Lisa, do you want to go through the copy?
Yeah, I agree with you 100% on that. And I just want to point out real quick that this is actually a thank you redirect page. So if you think about that, your donation has been processed, you could get that, or you could get something like this. And you can all definitely do that with your websites. So again, we're going to go sensory, and you can say the feeling of grass beneath your feet, sunshine on your face, the excitement of a good book, confidence and pride. When you write about those things in terms of the person that they're helping, remember we talked way back at the beginning about gratitude neuroscience, you're also increasing self-esteem. It's an act of tenderness really for your supporters as well. And that's what I always think about. Like when you think about love, if the best thing you can do is sort of extend that to them to help them feel better about themselves, even as people, like that's a beautiful gift that you can give. And so self-kindness love is about showing them, tapping into those values. Life richest colors can't always be seen. They are felt with the human heart. Already you can feel your heart sort of expanding from that. And you can all do that because I know you all believe in your causes. So
yeah, absolutely. And then familial love takes that into a relationship that is already there. But what I absolutely love about fundraising copy is that a lot of the time, yes, we are talking to people who are already there, and we're talking to a community who already care. But fundraising communications, especially gratitude communications, have that extra potential to create a family, to strengthen a bond that might not have been there previously. And if we explicitly and purposefully think about our thank you communications as our vehicle to grow a family, then we'll find the way we think about our copy change. And Lisa, do you want to go through the example?
Sure. Yeah, I agree with that 100%, Jen, because like if you, for this organization, a hospital foundation, when we started working with them, like the CEO said, look, we really, it's just something very special here at this hospital. And so we began to build that sort of story, that giving story and that supporter story to create that into a kind of community. You can talk about the things that are very special in your own community or for your own organization, and get donors to feel that kind of pride and connection to the specialness that you are, that the work that you do, the people that you serve. And so here's what we're talking about. Each of us is so grateful for the caring neighbor you are. So you can already start to like kindle some of those really higher emotions. Things like at the forefront of medicine. It's a very small hospital, but they punch way above their weight. And then we talk about the extraordinary love of community and being a champion of life-saving local healthcare. Things like because you believe that everybody feels pride in their hometown. We want to build that, even if they don't, the neighbors that they see at the supermarket, the people that they're caring for. You can definitely do that with your copy, with sort of little bits and pieces of things like that sprinkled throughout your thank you letter.
Absolutely. And then finally, pragmatic love. And usually when we think about pragmatic love, we think about our program, our project objectives. Have we delivered what people are giving money for? But what I love about this example is that, again, it goes so much more beyond the projects. Pragmatic doesn't have to be programmatic. It can be about that bigger, deeper, broader love story that you are inviting the people into. Lisa, do you want to go through the copy?
Yes. Yep. Really quickly, I think that's so important that Jen, that you said that, because what happened at this organization in particular, it was an organization that helps people who are homeless and struggling with addiction. And so the programs people were very, very worried that we would mishandle the way the work that was done. And what you talk about with baby steps is so important. This is a journey that happened over a period of a couple of years. But as you start to move that, the program staff looks and they're like, hey, this is really beautiful. They're telling our stories in an authentic way. And then everything opens up to you. So there's a behind the scenes sort of gratitude story to it as well. And here you can see, you keep us warm. We often used to say here, thank you for keeping the lights on and the kettle warm. Another way to talk about overhead, open and staffed day and night. Thank you for shelter from the storm. And you see that sensory copy come in again, even though it's pragmatic, it's not saying, just the hot meal. It's once cold hands hold hot cups of tea. You can see how you can sort of elevate that just from that simple sort of basic
Hi there,
level
I have a question
copy.
for you. I'm coming in today with my mom, and I'm doing the ultimate facial, and she's doing the reflexology at the same time. And I know
Happens every time. All right, sorry about that, Lisa. Continue on.
I think I got muted. There we go. That's it. That's really all I wanted to say was, you can talk about heat and lights and overhead, or you can say something like, you keep us warm.
Absolutely. And I think for me personally, all the tools that we introduce to you, they're only tools until when you begin to think about what kind of love you want to grow. What kind of love will make you happy to grow? So what I would encourage you to do once you come out of the webinar is to maybe just sit with your colleague, and I see some of you come in pairs, to ask yourself, out of all this set of loves, playful love, passionate love, self-kindness love, familial love, and pragmatic love, out of the 5 loves, if you have to just to pick one to work on your next thank you email, which one is the easiest one that is pulling your heart today? Then start with that one and then build from there, and bring any questions you have back to the office hour in 2 weeks' time. But for now, if you have any questions, we'll be around for a while longer. So please do feel free to type any questions you have. And I'll hand over to Jordan.
Thank you. Yeah, for anybody that can stick around that doesn't have another meeting, we do have some time for Q&A and hopping off mute, but not while you're scheduling a facial. And let's first just chat about some next steps. So we thought about a lot of great content. I love these webinars because it gives us the time and the space to think about something that's really important, but otherwise we might breeze over in the grand scheme of things. So let's chat about what you might do next. So key takeaways, at least from my perspective, first and foremost, is that we get to work with experts. And I feel so privileged to have both Lisa and Jen here to share their expertise. And just a reminder that, yes, coloradogives.org is sending the automated donation receipt to every donor, but that should not act as your only thank you. And you don't realize how much we hear from donors that say, hey, I never heard from the nonprofit. I gave through Colorado Gives and I never heard back. I just got the receipt. So it matters. And we hear it quite often. Also, and of course, focusing on love and gratitude with post-donation copy, because I think we've learned that it can greatly influence retention, the gift amount too, if you get them to come back. And then of course, donor satisfaction. So that relationship that you're building through love with donors. It is 100% worth your time before we have this special office hours, learn and ask, to take the thank you and the 5 levels and pick one kind of love and rewrite your thank you email so we can discuss it and talk through where you're getting stuck when we next meet. So don't wait. You can start implementing this now. But as Jen said, also don't put too much pressure on yourself, because this takes time to cultivate that love and then to insert it into everything that you're doing. All right. So some next steps you can consider is, of course, schedule time to review the thank you emails and other donor copy that's really important or frequently being sent out. So who did you send the email to, as Lisa said, and how did it perform? Did it work well? Was it kind of meh? Track that from your last one so you can see the improvements with this updated copy. Of course, within that copy, we want you to identify ways to personalize and include love, using you-focused language, dropping that program speak that no one really identifies with. So stop talking about your program, start talking about the impact. And then, of course, specific stories as much as you can to really pull at the heartstrings. I know we've said this a couple times, but if you can, please join us in the live Ask and Learn with Jen. It will be valuable information to hear the discussions from all the nonprofits that join, in addition to answering your questions. All right, some other things to think about before we next meet. Update your donation checkout flow. So we talked about that. Log in as an admin on Colorado Gives. You can use your retention report and customize the auto receipt, the thank you page, so it feels more like your organization when folks are checking out. Last but certainly not least, use Catch-a-Fire. So we want you to not feel like you're alone. Of course, we have this Ask and Learn, and then we have projects on copywriting as well as automating and setting up your emails, all within Catch-a-Fire. So get an expert to help you for free. All right, those are just some ideas on how you can take action in the next couple weeks. Let's go ahead and open it up for questions. So we still have some time here. We're here until 10:30. For anybody that didn't get their questions answered in the first round, if you could raise your hand, we can go ahead and unmute you. And if everybody's shy, I'm happy to read. Let's see. So I'll just pull one. This is from Stacy for you both. We are a two-person operation. What is the most efficient way to say thank you and show love? So with smaller organizations that don't have a ton of marketing and staff, where should they focus their time?
So if I had to answer that question, I would say, obviously, first of all, if people give, you want to send thank yous. Now, you don't necessarily have to send you, for some organizations, I would do even quarterly thank yous and update them. So let's say you have a really lovely base thank you that you can adapt 4 times a year. That's better than updating it every 2 years. And that will help you sort of save time as a two-person organization. Thank you calls are a huge, huge benefit after a gift. And we do know from experience that when you can send warm, prompt, authentic human thank yous, you increase your speed to second gift, you deepen retention, all the good things happen. And so for me, I would start with that post-gift donations and then gradually expand from there.
I love that. And on a similar topic, some of the folks were curious about, it sounds like you're suggesting a quarterly revision of the thank you email that goes out just to keep it fresh. How should they go about changing it every quarter? You know, like they've got it set for Q1. How do they reinvent it for Q2 and 3 and 4? What are your suggestions?
I mean, for me, what I would do is I would think about the sort of things that are going on in between those quarters. So let's say you've sent an appeal, it's a different kind of an appeal. Sometimes you can just talk about the changing seasons. Colorado would be a great way to do that. If you're an organization that helps people who are coming in from the cold, or maybe you're an arts organization that's just done a big concert, you can sort of include a little bit like that. An environmental organization might talk how the trees are changing color. Like even that and a little bit of basic information that changes, that can be enough to do it. You've got sort of the basic warm pieces there. I would also just say, make sure all your emails always come from a person. So even if you can't say the first and last name of the person, you could say something like Jenna at whatever the organization is in your from line.
Awesome. Thank you. Let's see if there's any more. Another question here that was a good one was how you suggest engaging board members in, from my perspective, the larger process of adapting this kind of language. But I think also maybe just for the thank yous, like how can they get involved? I had suggested calls and voicemails or signing the hard copy letters that you sent. Is there any other ways that you might leverage board members to amplify the thank you?
Jen, would you like to start with that one?
I think it's the same as you engage your donors. When I engage my board members, what I was looking for is that a fresh new view every time for them to experience the gratitude in slightly different way. And again, it can't be faked, right? So it needs to be in a context where you discuss, for example, new program development. It's to help them learn things that they didn't know before, to sometimes share seemingly random details of things that happened in the program that touched you or touched other people that you witnessed. So I think for engagement with board members is to believe that it is always possible to experience gratitude afresh. So become more intentional and purposeful in helping them get there, so that the expression of gratitude is not just feels like a routine for them, but is a genuine, pleasant experience for them to renew their own love and gratitude for the cause.
I love that. Stick a little exercise in every board meeting or something so that people can exercise the love muscle. I mean, really, I think that's a great idea. I'm going to keep going because we have a lot of good ones. So stop me if you need a break. This one I thought was cool. Thank you, Jen. She's curious if there is a gender difference in donor responses. So how do we manage between the genders? And my mind immediately goes to like a nonprofit serving women and children or women in need, or something like that. Is messaging different for them versus male supporters? How do you handle that?
It depending on the size, it depending on the size of the organization, right? If your organization is large enough to do segmentation studies, you'll be able to tell the kind of language that males use instead of females. Like a very typical divide is, their 70-year-old established male where they prefer to use the language of making a difference for others versus a 45-year-old female mother, community leader. They prefer to use the language of embracing people with love, right? So they are both people's love language. It's just they use very specific words. I mean, I would defer this to Lisa, but personally, when I would think about a letter, I wouldn't necessarily use the same letter to appeal to two different types of language. I would make a letter really good for one group and then the next really good for the other group. If you're a small organization that you can't segment.
Yeah, I would agree. And I would say too that really, if you think about it, like if you can't segment, we actually had an organization where we had two sets of acquisition letters because we found that an acquisition letter that went out with a male, it was a grateful patient appeal with a male grateful patient performed better in male recipients, and a female performed better for female recipients, which was totally eye-opening. But if you're just a really small organization, I would try to focus on what I like to call universal truths. So like, nobody wants to see somebody they care about hurt or in danger, or you can focus on some of that language versus trying to worry about if a person who's receiving it is male or female. We all have people that we care about of all genders and none who deserve to be safe and loved and protected. You can start with those first if you have to write a broader letter.
Yeah, absolutely.
Perfect. I know there's one person with a raised hand. I'm like having trouble finding them. So if you're able to just submit your question via chat, or
That
is
was
it you,
me.
Leah? Great. Yay.
Hey. Gosh, it was a second ago. Okay. I have a donor thank you manager. I forget the phrase you used. And they are writing the personalized letters. So I kind of have two questions there. Is there any kind of preference to do like a handwritten letter over like a typed note in the mail that's more, for multiple people? And then it would be really convenient if she could continue to do like maybe the call and the letter, and then the ED could do just an email thank you to follow up. Because I remember you saying that was like a great combo, like a 1-2 punch kind of. Here's your thank you, and then you'll hear from somebody higher up in the organization later on.
Mm-hmm. So you're thinking, your question is, what's the best combo? Is that right?
So I guess the simpler one is there a benefit to handwriting over a typed letter? And then the second question is, can the higher up in the org just do an email if there's like the more personal stuff from the donor relations manager already?
I mean, for me, what we've seen is always a variety is good. To just do the same thing over and over again, it's almost like the same way that you might thank somebody that you live with or love. Sometimes there's a card, sometimes there's a call, a text, or whatever. Like, that's fine. I think more the core of it is, and the other thing that's nice is sometimes certain campaigns might lend themselves more, or if you have a personal relationship, we often do cards. I can tell you super quick that there's a famous sort of study out there, Food for the Poor, on Hal Aloma. He sent these pre-thank yous at the beginning of the year, handwritten cards. They're a large organization, Food for the Poor, but to their best supporters. And at the end of the year, the group of supporters that received the pre-thank had given $450,000 more. So yeah, so there's handwritten notes are great, but you're welcome to do both. Like, the best thank you note is the one that's warm, prompt, authentic, and human, and gets sent.
Mhm.
Yeah. So a mix is great if you can. That would be wonderful.
Okay. And do you think it matters if, say, the donor relations person who's a volunteer at my organization sends the more formal handwritten letter, and then somebody from higher up in the organization just sends an email?
No, I think that would be fine if that's what you need to do. I think from time to time, maybe even once a year, like Jen said, with a lot of our organizations, once a year, we just send out what we call a gratitude pack. It's just a card and a letter, and you could maybe get your ED to hand sign. All they have to do is hand sign it. It's all done. Everything else is ready for them. Like, that might be really nice every now and then to mix that up.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, and I love your idea about sending the thank you beforehand, and how much more money that organization raised. That's genius. Maybe that's how you leverage the board's gratitude or your staff members' gratitude. So that's incredible. Thank you, guys. What else is going on? Let's see. Is anybody else? Okay, we've got some other hand raises. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
I'll go. Hi.
Awesome.
So I'm with a choir organization, and we have programs at our concerts, and they're digital because they're about 80 pages long. But I was wondering about your thoughts about, because we do have about 3 pages of just, here's a list of our donors that we want to acknowledge in the program. And the idea of 2 things. I have 2 questions. Number 1, just thanking everyone for donating their time and presence, because the one thing that we can never get back is our time. And we're a community building organization. So with the idea you mentioned earlier in the webinar about, like, thank you for donating X, now here's the next thing that we can do. So then leading to question number 2, if there was some sort of warm thank you on this donor page, rather than just, here's the list of our donors. It's like 300 people and you can barely read it.
And
Yeah,
so,
so just getting some feedback on that, given the context of what we've been talking about.
so you're thinking of, you'd like to know like what specifically you might be able to do with the donor page. Is that right? The 300 people you're acknowledging?
Yeah, is that, do we think that's an appropriate or useful place to add some of these, to add a thank you note basically into the program?
Yeah, I mean, Jen, you can definitely, you'll have something to add to this, I know, but like one of the big things is for me is you can thank often and everywhere. We thank in annual reports. There was an example in my book where we talk about, we say things like, you are the stars in our sky, and the song in our hearts. You could say that. I mean, you're the song in our hearts. Like you can never, like that, what you said, you can never get back your time. And they choose to spend their time with you. Like that is so beautiful. You can always warm up a thank you. You can always tuck in a thank you everywhere, which is what Jen's talking about. Like, is if you can put yourself into that love space, like think about how special that is, and you can put it everywhere. I think it's totally appropriate. Jen, do you?
I mean, the quote that I always think about whenever it comes to a art organization is when someone says, I love opera like a sunflower love the sun.
Oh,
You know, it's like, I am sure amongst your 300 donors, they all have a sentence they can say about why they love you. I mean, just think about on your page, you celebrate their love for you choir with their own heartfelt sentences like that. You know, just tell us how you love us.
yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, give us your best. That would be amazing. Amazing report back.
Yeah, exactly. It's so think about how you can turn that around. You know, we love our donors like sunflowers love the sun. You know, like
Yeah.
you know, like think about like you are choir people. I'm sure you can come up with like a much more beautiful vocabulary than what I can come up with, right? You've got songs and you've got lyric. Yeah, so you know, be you know, have some fun with it. You know, like you thank them like you do. You thank them like you sing your choir. You know, make that sound like a song to them. Have fun with it. Set it on
Absolutely. Oh,
fire.
Well, I'm inspired. I'm not going to sing, but well, thank you,
Wonderful.
Alex.
Thank
Did
you.
that answer your question?
Yes, absolutely. That's so helpful. Thank you.
Awesome. And I think another thing, I always wonder with those big donor lists, wherever they are, in an email or newsletter or anything like that, like people really aren't reading that. So is there a more special way that those donors want to be acknowledged? To me, it's more impactful to share one amazing story of one of that list of donors than it is to just list everybody. So anyway, thank you for that question. That was awesome. Um, we are coming up on time, but we do have another hand. So go ahead and unmute yourself,
Hi
whoever
there.
has their hand raised. Oh, there you are.
Oh, hi. Sorry, Shay Roberts with Testicular Cancer Awareness Foundation. I had a question about anonymous donors and acknowledging and thanking them. Uh, do you have any recommendations on that? One platform that we use does allow us to see the email that the donation came from, but they don't necessarily, say their name or any other details. Do we acknowledge those individually still, or how would you handle that?
I'll just quickly clarify that on Colorado Gives, the way that donors are able to select is that they're able to select that their information is not public. So their
Yeah.
name or their donation amount is not public, but you still are able to capture all of their information and email out to them. But your question really is, how are you managing that? How are you managing in other systems where you don't have that option?
Well, and also within Colorado Gives as well, if they say not public, I mean, I feel as though it's still appropriate to acknowledge them individually. But yes, just generally speaking, how would you handle that? I suppose. I'm sorry.
No, that's totally fine. I think as far as acknowledging them, just remember that they do get the automated receipt. So there is some acknowledgement. And I think it's really up to your nonprofit's policy about how you move forward with people who aren't necessarily opting in to either email or hard copy. Because I think Lisa made a great point when she mentioned that the opt-in process really helps the donor to raise their hand and say exactly what they want. So even if they are checking off anonymous or don't show my name publicly, if you have a custom question in the donation form that allows them to raise their hand for additional communications, it kind of eliminates that question.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would say too, I mean, it would take me a minute past the time that we have, but we did this for one organization on their donation page where they had a box that they could tick. Like you could always say, you know, we would love to be able to send you an email, you know, somehow to thank you for your very kind gift, even if you choose to remain anonymous. Like that would be a touchy subject, especially given the work that you support, that you make possible. I'd just be careful with that.
Thank you very much. I
That's
appreciate it.
awesome
Yeah.
question, Lisa. And you just reminded me, yeah, you can insert love into the way you customize your donation form, into those
Yeah.
questions. Like it doesn't have to be boring copy, like, do you want an email? Do you not want an email? I love that idea. And you did that without even thinking. So, are there any final thoughts or questions that we can, let me just look at the chat, that we can cover here before we say goodbye? Everybody's saying thank you. I think we answered Leah, so we're good. I hope everybody can come to the Ask and Learn, and I'll hand it over to Lisa and Jen. I'd love for you to say any final thoughts for our audience.
I'll go first so Jen can have that, because we go peek in. Jen can have the best. We'll save the best for last. I would just like to say thank you to everybody, and just thank you for caring about love and generosity and gratitude and giving. Like your willingness to learn how to do this is world changing, and I mean that. Like I have goosebumps on my arms, because it really, you're the people who are going to change the world, and I thank you for your big hearts and your time, the gift of your time. Jen?
Oh, absolutely. You know, my best wish for you all as you head into your thank you writing journey is you get that one email that come back into your inbox to say, thank you for thanking me in such a kind and nice way. I wish you all have that come into your inbox very soon. Thank you.
Have a great day, everybody.